Matt with MotoWorks here. All right, now that we got the introduction music out of the way, we're gonna be fixing the Chrysler 300. And what I mean by fixing, we're gonna be installing parts to get this thing ready to go drag racing in 2 days now it is. So I fixed the transmission. That's shifting just fine now. That connector plate or conductor plate, whatever you want to call it, that took care of the no shifting issue in the limp mode. So there's a few things that I want to do to the car, and let's just go over and take a look at the list of things that I want to try and get done before the Mopar or No Car event that they're having this weekend at Beaver Springs. All right, so not a full table of parts, but enough parts that I'm going to be busy for the next couple hours. And here's the list of things that I want to try and get done before racing. So I'm going to be installing new brake pads and rotors. I've got them there. A new tie rod end. I noticed that was a little bit, there was a little excessive play on one of the tie rod ends. I believe it was the passenger side. So I'm going to put a new tie rod end on. The sway bar bushings, because it's clunking and banging. I've had sway bar bushings in the trunk of my car forever. So if they're the right size for the car, I'm going to install them at this time as well. I'm going to clean the air filter. It's just dirty. It hasn't been cleaned for a while. I'm going to install these, the MSD blaster coil kit. I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference, but while the car was down, I ordered a bunch of stuff, which we'll see in another future video, but this is one of the things I ordered. I'm not a huge fan of the red, but at the time I ordered it, red was all they had. So in these times of parts being on forever back order, you take what you can get. I'm going to be removing the axles from the car. The reason being, I put just in case. I have a brand new set of axles. I first want to see if these axles fit my car. I haven't test fit them yet, so number one, I want to see if they'll fit, and number two, I want to loosen everything, put anti-seize on threads, and you know, grease the shaft, stuff like that, so that in the event something breaks, I'll be able to replace at least an axle if I lose an axle, because I am going to be racing this weekend, and if I am doing good at all, I at least want the ability to fix the car if it breaks. Now, why would I break axles? Right here, some M&H drag radials. You guys might have seen me install these on the car in a previous video. Possibly I might do an oil change. The oil looks good in this. I think I just recently changed it, like right before I had an issue with the car and the transmission, so the oil still looks clean. I'm probably just going to run with it. And then just a final check of all the fluids, make sure that my transmission's topped up like it should be, and that the rear differential has fluid in it as well. So I'm just going to also shake down the driveline parts, make sure that the drive shaft still feels all right. I'm going to check those drive shaft donuts, as I like to call them, make sure all that stuff's still in good working order. But enough talking. That's the list. I think first thing I'm going to do is start with the easiest thing first, and that's going to be replace those MSD ignition coils. Oh, and one thing I did do, guys, here, if you look, I fixed my hood release, so now the hood actually pops up when you pull the hood release. I just lubed up the hood latch. Oh, see? Finally fell out of place. Put that in there. All right, we're good to go. So yeah, I just greased up the hood latch with some WD, and now it works just like a dream. So to get to the coils, I love Hemis. They are far superior to LS's in my opinion because of this. All the coils sit right on top of the engine, super easy to get to. And all you got to do to access them is just pull this cheap little cover off here, which I think this one's broken anyway. Just pull that cover off there, and boom, coils are right there. All right, now this is actually, if you're looking to do an upgrade on your car, or you have ignition coils that have gone bad, this is a simple upgrade that most people can do themselves. And like I said, you just pull that little cover off. and then you unplug the coil. I mean, once that's unplugged, you just unbolt it. It's a 10mm bolt. And then you just thread that out, lefty-loosey. And then just thread the other one out there. It's best to use your fingers so you don't lose your 10mm socket in the abyss of the engine. And then once you get that out of there, you just pull that coil out. The actual rubber portion is pretty flexible. You know, you don't want to put too much stress on it because you could end up ripping a boot, and then that wouldn't be a good situation, but they are pretty flexible, so you can move them around just a little bit, just enough to get the clearance you need. And then I know that all these coils are good because I didn't have any misfiring issues, so after I put these in, I'll always have a spare, you know, with the stock ones at least, or I can use them just to troubleshoot a problem or get me where I need to go until I get another replacement. But these are also flexible, so you just want to put them, fish them down into the hole, and they'll find the top of the spark plugs. The cool thing about these MSD coils is they come with the bolts pre-installed, so you don't have to remove the other bolts out of the other coils. And then you just start to thread those suckers in there. And then once you get them in there, let the bolts draw them down on top of the spark plugs. And I want to tighten them down evenly. And take your time, you don't want to strip these out. Strip them out, then you gotta mess with the valve cover, and that's no fun. But definitely easier than LS stuff for sure. Alrighty, so those are almost all the way on. I finished tightening them with the old ratchet and socket. And if at any point it feels like it's not threading in nicely, don't force it. Should be pretty effortless to thread these on here. And then don't go overboard tightening these down. These aren't holding the engine together. You just want them to hold themselves down onto the top of the valve cover. Again, like I said, you strip this valve cover out, that's going to be a bad day for you. So just snug, and then plug them back in. Now you want to listen for the click. And make sure it clicks on. Hopefully you still have that clicker on there, but click it on, click it in place. And I'm just going to finish up this side here. Alright, so this side's done. I'm just going to do the other side. I mean, this is actually a really simple modification that you can do to your own car. I mean, I only needed a 10mm socket. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Just don't want to cross thread the bolts. I'll say that a million times. Just get it through your head. Don't want to cross thread those bolts because that would make a bad day. So this side's done. I'm going to finish up on that side over there, and then we're going to get started on the brakes. All right, I gotta ask, anybody out there actually believe that installing performance parts increases your fuel economy? I guess a better question would be, does anybody out there actually install performance parts because they hope to get better fuel economy? I've never noticed an increase in fuel economy, especially like an exhaust. They claim that you're going to increase your mile per gallon. And I think that's all a lie, because you spend most of your time at higher RPM so you can hear your exhaust, so you're getting worse fuel economy. But hey, it's just me. But I know one of the claims in addition to providing a hotter spark or a better spark, they claim that these will improve your MPG. And I'm just wondering if anybody's ever installed these ignition coils because they wanted to improve their mile per gallon. And if they did they get, what results did they get? That's all. All right, moment of truth. Make sure it still works. Perfect. So starts up, runs, sounds good. I feel the horsepower. All right, so it was the driver's side tie rod end, I believe. No, I'm a liar. Passenger side. Well, I swear it shook more than that the last time I had it on here, but there's definitely play in it. But it's not as bad as it was. There's definitely some movement in that tie rod. It's getting replaced anyway. Oh well. Take the wheel off, take the rotors off, take the calipers off, get this stuff installed. Alright, so the old rotor's off down here. I got the pistons pushed back in the caliper, and honestly guys, you should be able to push these back by hand because they shouldn't be super tight in there. They should be free moving pistons because the actual caliper does not move at all. It's a permanent fixture onto the spindle. Like, this doesn't have slide pins like a typical caliper would on a standard car. So these push back fairly easy. If they don't, it might be time for a rebuild or just replace the calipers. So yeah, those should push back in fairly easily. But that stuff's off. I mean, it's pretty clean in there. I'm not going to get crazy on this stuff here. I think my brake pad kit came with new pins and new hardware, so I'm not going to worry about the old stuff there. Just replace it with all new. The bearing still feels good. Nice and quiet when you spin it. And there's no play in it. Hard to believe that this tiny little bearing supports all the weight of this car and these massive 13-inch brake rotors. I'm always astounded by that, but there's just a tiny little bearing in there. Go little bearing, doing all that hard work. Okay, almost done with this side here. So, wouldn't you bet, or wouldn't you guess, I got to the last brake caliper, and number one, I'm gonna need a caliper because the pin is seized in the caliper, so I'm gonna have to get a new caliper for the driver's side rear. And it also started raining. As you can see, the car is, I don't know if you can see it, car's still jacked up. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm waiting for it to pass. Hopefully it's just a quick storm. I can at least put the car down on all four tires and at least torque the wheels on. I was in the process of putting everything back together because I'm gonna have to get a caliper at some point. I mean, the brake pads are still good, the rotor's still in good shape. It might shimmy a little bit, but the other three brake rotors are on, pads are in, everything went well on those. But it always figures, it's the last one, and it was the last pin I tried to take out. So that's just how these things go. So hopefully this monsoon behind me ends soon enough so that I can finish doing my work. But we'll see. But I think I'm gonna end it off anyway here, guys, because if it doesn't stop, then there's no point in turning the camera back on. But we got the coils in, brake pads and rotors almost the whole way around. The tie rod, I didn't really feel it. I don't know if you guys saw in the video, so I'm gonna let that one go because it's not. I thought the play was more excessive than what it was. I'm just gonna let that go. And the sway bar bushings that I've been driving around with in the back of my car for over a year now, those weren't the right ones anyway. So I'm gonna have to do something with that, but that's just how these things go. But the car is almost ready. All the bolts are loose, so it should be fairly simple. I left the center caps out of the wheels, so then all I have to do is loosen the axle in the event that I break one. So everything was loose, so it shouldn't be difficult to get that apart. But yeah, we're ready to go. I'm excited. I'll be excited when this rain stops, but hey, we'll catch you in the next upload. Thanks for checking this one out.